You're listening to Tapestry, a podcast by a music lover for music lovers. I'm your host, Kelly. Music is a thread that weaves a course throughout our lives. Join me on a journey to unravel that thread and bring you the stories behind what inspires musicians to create. Side note, Tapestry is an uncensored podcast. Don't say I didn't warn you. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 46 of Tapestry, where today I spoke with Indigo, Baloch, and Brian Howe of the Pittsburgh-based darkwave synth-pop duo Some Faith about this new venture of theirs. They enlightened me today on how they successfully complement each other's creative skills and handle promotion, filmmaking, songwriting, and mixing all internally. Plus mused about stepping back and acknowledging what you're naturally drawn to as artists and musicians, how poetry, astrology, and horror film culture combine to inspire their lyrics, and what Indigo does during mic checks. You're listening to The Pain Has a Purpose, a track off their upcoming EP, A Lesson in Patience. Some Faith, welcome to my podcast. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves because I really only know one of the two of you. So typically I will start off with your name, kind of who you are as a group, and then if each of you could give me a little bit of your own musical background and history.
Okay, my name is Indigo Baloch. Let's see, I was born in 1994, and since then only made terrible decisions. No, that's not true. I met Brian through the music scene, been involved in that for quite a minute in Pittsburgh. I've been on the board of directors at the Mr. Roboto project for like 3 years now, I think. And I've run other venues before and booked shows. My booking collective I work with, Don't Let the Scene Go Down on Me. And yeah, so we just kind of knew each other through like shows and mutual friends through the music scene. And just kind of like knew that the other existed. And then we ended up forming this band together. And I've been in other bands before, but I think that this is the one that's gotten the furthest, I would say, just because Brian is such a delight to work with. And it's true.
Yeah.
He's a delight to
also
work
can
with.
confirm.
Yeah. He's just like, he's so nice and so fun and is so supportive. And we actually filmed an episode of Start the Beat together. And I said this on there too, so I won't get as far into it on this one. But yeah, there's like a lot of like scummy dudes in the music industry, and Brian is not one of them. And it's one of the first times I've been able to make music with a person that isn't a scummy person. So it feels great. And I am very lucky and very happy about it.
That's a hell of an elevator pitch. Yeah. Yeah. Brian.
Thanks, Indigo. I'm Brian. I am trying my best to not be a scumbag. To not be a scumbag.
Doing great.
But yeah, as Indigo mentioned, we met each other through the Pittsburgh music scene. I'd see Indigo a lot, either like running sound at a show or dancing in the corner at a DJ night somewhere.
Always dancing.
Having a beer at a friend's house. Like we would just run into each other a lot of mutual friends.
Yeah.
And before I was doing this project, in Greywalker, vocalist for Greywalker, I have Sykes and the New Violence, which is now Normal Creatures, but people probably know it as Sykes and the New Violence. Prior to that, I played in a bunch of bands, but like the first music project that I was ever in that was like a band was actually like an industrial noise project. So
Oh.
this is like way more back to my roots.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
does
know.
not feel very far off from that at all.
Yeah, I think that there was some people that seemed to be a little bit surprised whenever this came out, at least from my perspective, because people know me as being like, the hip hop dude, the metal dude. And it's like, I've been making music like this way longer than any of that other stuff. I just haven't had a good avenue to like really present it, or like a good partner in crime to, plot and scheme with. So it's been really cool. This project came out of just a joking half-ass sort of like, hey, like we should do some goth shit together. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And then I mean we made it happen because like luckily Indigo's a go-getter, and I find myself to be
Ooh.
a bit of a get it doneer. So we work
Go
well together.
getter, get it doneer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have to say, for a band that's only been around since August of last year, you guys are like already, you have the 2 singles out, you have super professional website, all of the pro photography, you have like 2 music videos. Like most bands or most projects that are like, hey man, we should like do this, usually aren't doing that after being around for barely a year. So I can see the go-getter ethos in full force there.
We definitely have a bit of an unfair advantage because this isn't a first project for either of us.
Yeah.
And we've been, as Indigo mentioned, having difficult times with other people and other projects in the past. I've definitely shared bands with plenty of scummy people as well, or just people that aren't a joy to be around.
Yeah.
So going into this project, I think the both of us really knew what we wanted to do. We had a pretty clear focus for like music, videos, how we were going to present it, just because I think this is something that both of us genuinely wanted to do for a long time. We just had to find each other.
And I think at this point, our brains are pretty in sync. Like, I feel like most of the time when we're brainstorming stuff or working on things, we've gotten pretty good at like channeling each other's energy. And like so perfect example, the hourglass that we used in the album art,
which is actually sitting right
I
there.
see it sitting in the
there.
video right there. That's cool.
Yeah. So we were looking at hourglasses online, and we're both like scrolling on our phones, and we're like, what about this one? No, what about this one? No. And like just like showing each other. And then at the same time, we were like, ooh, what about this? And we showed each other, and it was the same one, and we were like, ah! So we were like, okay, I guess we're going with this.
So we bought it, and now it is here.
And we tried so hard to light it on fire.
Yeah, it lived. It survived.
Was that in the Liminal music video? Did I miss it, or for something else?
No.
It's the cover for our EP that is coming.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that EP, A Lesson in Patience.
Cool.
So, Brian, I know you had said to me through Messenger, you're like, I'm not sure if we should talk about this in the past tense or the present tense because roughly 10 days from the recording of this episode, you guys will be debuting that EP in a live stream. And I'm going to do my damnedest to get this episode out before October 30th so we can talk about it kind of right as it's happening. But let's talk about it how you'd like it to go, because it hasn't happened yet. So tell me a little bit about that release, and I'm going to ask you some other further questions just about what's on that EP.
Sure. So this is the first half of a full length. We've decided to be very 2020, and instead of releasing the entire album, because we do have a whole album, we're releasing half.
But okay.
The plan is whenever we do a physical, probably when we release the second EP, the second half, it's going to come with a physical release that's going to be the whole thing. It's more of just a marketing scheme, really. But
don't sound like a capitalist.
Yeah, I mean, it's
hey,
when it
Brian,
comes
I know
to,
you're all about that physical media though, so
yeah, I think that it's just really important to have a strategy with releasing music. And while I am not a fan of the way things are, things are the way they are. So it's
you
just
gotta play the game.
Yeah, we're just kind of playing the game with the EP, and it's fun. It gives us a little bit more stretching out the material gives us more of a reason to kind of keep poking our heads out and be like, hey, check out this thing we did. Check out this thing we did.
Yeah. Plus, I'm just really bad at keeping secrets. So I'm just like, can't we put it out now? I hate knowing that it's ready. So I'm just like, I guess for me, you're like marketing, and I'm like, I just want to put it out in the world. I want it to be seen.
I think it's really asking a lot when you're a new band that, people don't really know. Like, here's
Yeah.
40 minutes of material.
Mhm.
I feel like it's
Yeah.
asking a lot. For me, I can listen to a whole album, but it does seem like attention spans are they're a little bit smaller than they used to be. But I
Yeah.
feel like, we're 6 tracks is a pretty nice, healthy offering. That's
Yeah.
what you'll be
It's
getting.
still like 25 minutes, I
Yeah.
think.
That's a
Yeah,
good
it's-
nugget of material, though. Like,
Yeah.
it's not enough to turn people away, but it gives you probably a taste of who you guys are as a duo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the other thing too with being a band now, and you're talking about physical media and not having shows or anything, it's like, where's this money going to come from to produce these physical goods?
Yeah.
So there's
that's
part of
another
there's part of
thing.
me that's hoping that, like, hey, if we can get some hype off of the first half of this, maybe we can print up some merch and do some things to kind of help fund the whole thing instead of like going into a bunch of debt up front
Yeah.
Right.
and then like it not panning out as expected. But that's just, again, stuff that I've learned from other bands that I've been in that have made mistakes. I'm trying to apply all of those things to this one to
Yeah.
not have any mistakes happen this time, which they will inevitably happen, but at least I'm trying to avoid them.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay, that's true. I like that strategy, though. I think that's a winning strategy. And I mean, now that I know, Indigo, I didn't know really anything at all about your background. I knew a lot about Brian's, but considering that you both have a lot of shared experience, this is probably going to be the most mistake-free project yet of any of yours, I guess, if you're
God, I
going
hope
with
so.
that.
Oh, God, I hope so.
So far, so good.
Yeah. I think the only thing that's really been a stumble for us was just COVID, but I think that was like
Right.
unavoidable. That hit every band. And honestly, we've talked about it multiple times that in the end, I think it was for the best that it pushed us backwards, because we had been, when COVID hit, we had live shows scheduled. We had like 3 shows set up, and we were trying to really like crush out the album as fast as we could so that we could have it like with the shows and everything. And I just think that we weren't really ready. And I think that because everything got pushed back, we were forced to take our time with everything, and it ended up being for the best, because now we have everything that we're really actually happy with it. There is no rush. We just feel like it's done.
100%.
That's such a difficult feeling to pin down, I think, as a musician, is the when is it ready feeling. I don't know if you could go into detail about that, but do you guys both have a perspective on that kind of, all right, here, push it across the table, it's ready for you? Like, a lot of people are just like just endless editors and endless revisers, and I think that's a really hard skill to learn.
A piece of art is never really done, I suppose, and you can mix and edit and restructure a song until the ding dong cows come home.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a matter of, with my experience from other projects and just being like, put out a song, it's like, this feels good, sounds good, I'm happy with it, let's not overthink it, push forward. Just trying to like it. Luckily with what we're doing, this is like a synth pop, darkwave, gothy sort of thing. So we're dealing with, verse chorus structures, 4.5 minute songs. This isn't anything that's like insanely progressive, or it's like, well, we could go into some 12-minute instrumental passage here. Like, we're not Opeth. So it's like a little bit easier for us to be like, this is what it is, intro, verse, chorus, bridge, wrap it up.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with that. So
But with the deadlines thing and COVID, I think, as Indigo had mentioned, we were definitely rushing to get a lot of stuff done because we set these deadlines for ourselves
that we could not have met.
No way. I mean, we could have, but I just don't think that
we would have risen to the occasion, but I think that
The material
where
would have suffered.
yeah, where it
Yeah.
is now, it feels so much better than where it was then when we were like, this is gonna have to do. This is good enough. And then since then we've made so many edits to the songs that we are both, I think, so pleased with that we wouldn't have been able to think of if we hadn't had the time to re-listen and re-listen.
Sure. I think that, in a hopefully post-COVID world, whatever that may be, I think that I really want the patience to stick with us and not
Yeah.
allow ourselves to get caught up in deadlines and like, oh well, we have a show at somewhere, so we got to finish up all these things. I think a lot of bands get caught in that trap of feeling like they have to do things by a certain time because they're going to be missing out on something. And it's like, bro or broette, sis, whatever.
Broette.
These are just songs. Like, it's not the end of the world. So,
Dudes
take
and
your time.
dudettes.
Yeah, dudes and dudettes. Make sure that, it's just make sure that you are happy with them, that you're not rushing. I feel like the world was in such a hustle bustle pre all of this. And I've been feeling a lot better about my work and taking the time, having the extra time, and not feeling so obligated to play shows because every show is not necessary as a musician.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really not. So yeah, end rant.
No, that's a great statement, and I actually agree with you on the kind of reduction of pressure, just that feeling that's kind of emerged, whether it's in your line of work or your personal hobbies and stuff. I mean, hell, I took a 3-month hiatus from this podcast just because I was trying to cram so many things in every week and every month, and it's like, who are you competing against? It's just you. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it so much. If you like doing it, do it. And I think it kind of sounds like that's what encapsulates this whole project. Hey, we both enjoy this style of music. We wanted to come together. We wanted to make something happen, and we're just going to do it on our own terms. I do want to back up, though, before I forget, because I will say darkwave and synth pop are not really my usual MO when it comes to what I listen to. So I browsed Wikipedia for some basics on those genres,
yes.
but what made you guys land on this combination of styles? And is there a reason you sort of think it suits the music best or the message best?
Well, so for starters, I think one thing is that Brian and I really bonded over a mutual love of Depeche Mode. Was like, I think like the first like real conversation we had was like, I was getting a Sykes shirt from you, and I think you were wearing a Depeche Mode shirt, and I was like, oh my god. And then we ended up talking for like an hour or something, like just branching off into like music and comics and all sorts of stuff. Um and so I think it's just that we've both had like a mutual appreciation for that kind of music, but haven't or currently didn't have a project that was making that kind of sound.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, for me, the Depeche Mode was a huge influence, but also just anything that sounded like I really wanted to do a pop focused project that had a darker edge to it. So it made sense to have like Depeche Mode, but then like sprinkle in some harder drums, like a Nine Inch Nails sort of an influence, or like, something newer like Youth Code. And then there's artists that are like more on the synth pop, dream pop, R&B spectrum of things, like a Purity Ring, who I think is a fantastic band.
I love
But like this stuff's like happy, and like I'm not happy
I
when it
don't
comes
want
to the
happy.
music. So like I thought I was like, okay, well, like, I want to put some of that in the pot and put some of this in the pot, and it just kind of it became
Yeah.
what it was,
And I would say one thing that I've heard a lot of people say, which I take as a compliment, and I hope they mean it as one, is that a lot of people have been saying that they don't really know how to classify us, or like that they haven't heard something like us before, and that it's a unique sound, which once again, like I take as a compliment. And I think it's cool that we are able to make sort of a mishmash of different things, because that's I think that's always a great thing in music if we can make new sound.
Totally. I think that, it was really important for me to, I want to make sure every track has a bit of a different feel. I want to make sure that everything sounds like it makes sense for what we're doing. It's
Yeah.
dark and it's moody, but I like having the pop elements where it has to be catchy. I don't want it to be brooding. I don't want it to be like moody to the point that you lose the melody, which you kind of get in a lot of goth music.
Yeah.
Some of or industrial or whatever. Like sometimes there's an attitude to it where it's like very depressing. And like I don't really fuck with that. Like I like depressing music, but like for like what I'm doing, I want to make something that's dark but still sounds fun that you could dance to, even if it
Mm.
has like, a serious tone to it. I think the way that Indigo approaches the lyrics is very like, wow, like this is some shit to think about. But
Yeah.
the melodies that she chooses and the way that she, enunciates everything, it's fun and it's catchy and it's like upbeat sounding. Nothing really sounds like dark. It's all kind of like playful in a weird way, which is a really fun juxtaposition between like the hard industrial synth
Mm.
stuff and then like her, because you could put like her vocal and like these melodies on top of something that's way more pop driven and it would sound just as good. I just gave it a little bit of grit.
Hmm, that's true. Well, that's a good place to ask a little bit more about kind of what each of your particular duties are with Some Faith, because I know Indigo, you're the vocalist,
Mhm.
and I guess really the primary songwriter. Is that correct, or are you guys
Yes.
kind of
Yeah.
sharing? Okay, and then
Well,
Brian.
so
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Brian does, oh no, sorry. Yeah, like Brian does, our process is like Brian will make the music and then send it my way, and then I write the lyrics over it.
So it's
And
the egg before the chicken kind of thing.
yeah, so it's like it's kind of fun because then it's like I never really know what he's gonna send over, or what it's gonna turn into. And it's fun because sometimes like I'll bring it to him and be like, okay, these are like the lyrics that I've decided to write over it, and like this is how I'm gonna sing it and stuff. And sometimes he's like, ooh, yeah, I was wondering if you would do something like that. And sometimes he's like, that is not where I thought you were gonna take it, but I like it.
Yeah, it's a fun mixture of things. The first song that we put together was Liminal. That was the first
Yeah.
track that we wrote together. And the process was really what Indigo had just mentioned. I spent like a week working on this track and then I sent it over and I had no idea what was going to happen. I didn't fully know Indigo's work ethic. I didn't know how serious or not serious she was going to take it. But maybe a few days later, she sent me back a version of the song that was like basically her playing it through her laptop speaker and singing at the microphone, just like a demo of what she had
Yeah.
written. And it really wasn't too far off from what the final product was. I mean, I think
Yeah.
there's like, like something got cut, like maybe like half a verse got trimmed or something got moved, like
Yeah.
slight changes. But for the most part, like it was really there. The skeleton was there. And I remember hearing it and just like, oh, wow, like this can work. Like we can actually do this.
Yeah.
Just the fact that Indigo even bothered to take the time to record a vocal demo and send it was like, oh, okay, cool. That go-getter mentality I was talking about.
Right.
And like from there, I was like, well, that worked. So let's try that again. So then I did it again. And then
And then you got
we
an
pretty much
album.
did. Yeah, we did
Yeah.
that for like the first few songs. And then that was all remotely too. Like I mean, we
Yeah.
live 10 minutes away from each other, but we're both pretty busy people.
Yeah.
But I feel like once we had like a few songs in the pipe and it
Mhm.
was like, oh, this is actually a thing that we can do for real. We started like dedicating more time to it and getting together every week and actually working out the songs in person and demoing things. I think like we recorded all the songs maybe 2 or 3 times,
Yeah.
just kind of going through and figuring out things. I like redid all of the synths and everything at one point, like because all the demo versions of the songs had totally different synths in them. So I ended up
Hmm.
like re-recording a lot of the music, just figuring out like, as we started to write more and more songs, we started getting a more defined idea of what the project was and what it was going to sound like. I think that, uh, but that's natural.
Yeah. And then also the last couple months have just been, since we decided to split it into two, then it became sort of like, okay, which ones are the ones we're going to put out first and fine tuning those ones. Just kind of seeing like, okay, so we've got all these songs, which ones are going together and which order makes the most sense and what are the last bits that we need to fix and do we need to redo the vocals in this part, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I think the other thing too that has been really helpful with us deciding to split up is that it's given us more time to focus on the extracurricular stuff. Like now we're
Yeah.
spending a lot of time working on music videos and visual stuff and like behind the scenes planning things,
Yeah.
which has been cool. We're not like just wrapped up in the music now. Like we've spent pretty much, I think we finished recording all of this stuff maybe 2 or 3 months ago,
Yeah.
and but we still get together every week, and it's been like filming videos, planning videos,
Doing podcasts.
doing
Yep.
podcasts, planning just all that little like fun behind the scenes stuff, which I feel like sometimes is unfortunately like a last minute thing. You're like a deer in headlights. Like, what are we
Yeah.
gonna do with all this stuff? But
Yeah.
again, that's something that I've had happen way too many times in previous projects where this time I was like, F that. Let's work on, taking the time to make sure every little bit is fun. And it keeps it fun for us too, because
Yeah.
I mean, the two of us are pretty much doing every little aspect of this in one way or another. So it's fun to be like, okay, let's take a step back from writing songs and just focus on coming up with stories for music videos, or
Yeah.
let's focus on any of the other things that I just mentioned. Yeah, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
End rant number two.
That does kind of seem like you guys both are pretty independent people, and then when you come together it's just like, all right, what can't we do, basically. That might lend that whole quality though might really be what lends itself to the fact that, like I said, you've been a band for just a little bit over a year, and it already feels very polished. The EP's not even out yet, and it's like, all right, we're here, I hope you see us. So that's great. What was I gonna ask you? Indigo. Okay.
Indigo.
Me.
Can you tell me a little bit more about how you come up with lyrics? Because I know I had the one written down from the one single, "The Pain Has a Purpose," and
Mhm.
I don't know if it has anything to do with this or not. But when I heard your one line, I'm just like, this has to be about Corona in 2020. But the one lyric is, "If we live through this, then we'll know that this was worth it." And I'm like, okay, I need to ask her more. So how do you come up with your lyrics, and kind of what's your perspective on songwriting?
Yeah. So actually that song was the second one we wrote. So I wrote that a year ago.
Yeah, all of the
Mm.
whole album was written pre-corona.
Yeah.
As we had mentioned,
Yeah.
we
Damn it,
were
it's your
pretty much
fault.
we were getting ready to start playing those shows. So like we
Yeah.
thought we were ready, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, so that song in particular, so I am a poet also, and so I think that plays a lot into how I write my lyrics as well. Though it's funny, I actually, so I would say that I used to hate poetry, and I was like, I only write songs. And then I in college I was going for writing, and I was like, I'm going for prose though. I don't want to write poems. It's not my stuff. And then I had a professor my first year that was like, no, I think you should probably do poetry. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I ended up loving it. And I think that it's helped my songwriting a lot as well. Um, in terms of like the metaphors that I use or the language that I use. But yeah, so like that song in particular. So when Brian and I started making music, I had just had like a huge breakdown, and like it was just like a bunch of things had gone wrong in my life at once, and I was feeling really helpless and overwhelmed, um and that was about the time that Brian reached out and was like, we should make music. And I was like, yeah, I like really need that kind of like artistic cathartic release right now, to just like get everything out. And so that's kind of how that happened. Is so Liminal was the first song we wrote, and Pain Has a Purpose was the second. And those were both me just trying to get out all of the feelings that I had had. So I think that's the big thing, is for those ones in particular, that was like me working through like a cathartic release of everything that had been hurting. Um and so, yeah, Pain Has a Purpose is like about Saturn retrograde and how I'm very into astrology.
Oh, I'm a
But
Libra. Tell me everything about myself I don't know.
oh my god. Okay, so Libras are a
I
delight,
regret
but also
asking
we
this.
gotta watch out for you. Like so it's funny because Brian is a Libra Scorpio cusp and his partner Stacy is a Libra.
I knew I liked both of you.
Yeah, I love Libras and I also hate Libras. I've been done dirty by Libras recently, but
We're
I'm
selfish,
trying
we're
to forgive.
impatient, and we have really high standards. So, I mean,
I mean that's not wrong. But also you guys are very friendly, real people pleasers. You love the finer things in life and I appreciate that. Um but yeah, so
Brian
Saturn
just like chuckling,
retrograde.
like,
No, I mean he's seen me and Stacy go off about astrology, and we just finally did his full chart, which is
oh
also
no.
probably why he's chuckling. And that was a real treat to finally have that, just to know. But yeah, so it was like we were in a Saturn retrograde and my life had fallen apart. I'd lost my job. My childhood cat that I'd had for 17 years passed away. And I'd like lost an important friendship in my life and all sorts of other things that were just kind of like piling on. And I was just like, why will the universe not let me catch a break? And then an astrologer that I follow was posting about Saturn retrogrades, and it was something that I hadn't really looked into much before. And basically, it's like it Saturn retrogrades will push you out of your comfort zone. They will put you through a lot of pain, but it all has a purpose. It's all about pushing you where you're meant to be. And it's going to hurt like hell, but at the same time, it's all going to be for the best in the end. And so that's really what that song is about, is just like, God, this is all painful, but I just have to push through this. Cause that's the whole thing, is like that had kind of just become my mantra then at that point, was just like, everything hurts so much. And no, I'm not going to be able to catch a break because I just have to push through it. There's just no other option right now. Like, yes, totally. It's important to be gentle with yourself, but yeah, you just got to like push on through. And Liminal similarly was about, those situations that I was hurting from. And it's actually funny. I just saw so it's funny that we're releasing everything now, like you said, because it sounds very Corona, COVID kind of stuff. And I just saw a post the other day that was like a quote from like a doctor or something, being like, we are in a liminal stage right now with COVID, where it's like, because the whole thing is about liminal spaces are like this sort of in between period from one thing to the other, where it's like this unknowing period where you're just like, I don't know what's going to happen next. I started here. I have to get to this other end, but this whole part in between is so unsure. And that's where we are right now, is it's just like, we don't know when this is going to be over. Like, is it liminal? Like, what is it? Like, what do we do? You know? And yeah, so I just thought that was like really interesting that somebody used that word to describe where we are right now as a world.
It's not a common word to begin with. I admit I had to look up the definition whenever I was watching some of the stuff, and I'm like, Interesting. Okay.
I learned that word from my old roommate who is an architect. And we used to do vocab words of the week in our house. And 1 week she picked liminal. And I was like, what? And then she described it and I was like, that's a nice word. And then I never forgot it.
I live alone, but if anyone wants to come over and do vocab flashcards with me, the offer is on the table because I somehow all these years ago got a perfect score on the critical reading section of the SATs, and now I'm like, I don't know what that word means. I forgot it all. So.
That's okay. You and I can be vocabulary buddies.
Okay, sweet. Well, then, can I ask for a teaser then, or of what the other track names are on the A Lesson of Patience EP?
What do you think?
Are you willing to reveal that?
Cool. Okay, so song number 1 is Liminal. Song number 2 is Harsh Flames. Song number 3 is Hunger. Song number 4 is Pain Has a Purpose. Song number 5. I'm sorry.
This voice, it sounds like we can make like a QVC commercial for the album.
That's what this is.
Come on down. Behind door number 3 is
door
Liminal.
number 5. Song number 5 is The Tower and the Moon. And then song number 6 is a cover that we will not tell you at this time.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to
I like where you went with that.
Yeah, I kept it a little bit secret.
Nice.
I'm calling it now. It's probably a Depeche Mode cover, but I don't know. I could be really wrong about
I wish.
that. So.
We wouldn't dare.
It would be too on the nose as the problem.
We would not dare.
But
there's some. I feel like there's artists that nobody should ever cover.
Okay,
how so?
But I would say
Explain.
that I've heard some good Depeche Mode covers. Cloakroom has an incredible cover of Never Let Me Down. And Placebo, I can't remember which one they covered, but Placebo covered a Depeche Mode song, and Placebo can do nothing wrong, in my opinion.
I feel like if you're not another synth band, it's okay.
Yeah, it's got to be like unique enough to sound like it's yours.
Yeah, like for me, it would be like if like a rapper were to cover another rapper's song. It would just be kind of
it's like,
weird.
what's the difference?
Yeah, or if a metal band, like if you know, my dumb metalcore band was going to cover another metalcore song, it's like, why would we do this?
It would just sound the same.
So that brings me to an interesting question. As I was saying before, I'm like, I really don't know what darkwave is or synth pop, kind of. So I went to Wikipedia, and synth pop, apparently, there's kind of a criticism of it as a genre because oftentimes, I'm not saying this is the case with Some Faith because you're clearly both talented, but sometimes the artists they don't really have any musical training. It's just kind of like, I can, plug this MIDI keyboard into my DAW and beep boop around and whatever. And so a lot of times they might rely kind of too much on the technology they have to create their work instead of, like trying to understand chord progressions or the technical prowess of that. Like, I understand I'm coming from a progressive music background, but just what you said about, why would a metalcore band cover a metalcore song? Like, do you feel like it's hard to stand out in a world of music where essentially, you could, like, someone could essentially end up creating the same Some Faith song as you guys do if they just have the same plugins or the same,
Sure. Sure. I think that people get too hung up in this idea that they have to be unique.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be unique. Just be yourself, be kind to the people around you, and you'll generate a crowd of people that want to be around kind, cool people.
Isn't he great?
It's like music is like burgers. Like the burgers are no different anywhere else. It's just like, but like you want a burger.
But you
or
make
a plate
good
of,
burgers.
Or a plate of pasta. Yeah, some are better than others, but the fundamental thing of what it isn't incredibly unique from one restaurant to another.
Well,
and our music isn't incredibly unique, but it's good in our own way.
I find this funny because we have a bit where we call our songs cakes. So if we're talking about burgers, you should be saying cakes.
That's
Every
true.
cake is the same. As a person
So-
who doesn't really like cake, every cake is the fucking same. I'm sorry. Every cake's the same. I'm getting the side eye.
I'm a baker.
Yeah, Indigo in her other creative endeavors is a baker.
I toed the
There are
wrong line.
cupcakes in the kitchen, and you are not getting
That's
any
fine.
of them.
I just don't like boring cake, I guess. But
yeah,
what kind of baking do you do?
So actually, you might like my stuff because I like to play with flavors a lot. So like, I do this like monthly bake sale thing, where I like raise money for different like organizations or people that like need funds and stuff like that. And so this past one of the things I made was red velvet cakes with a hibiscus glaze.
Okay, I would eat that for sure.
So yeah, and like I do a lot of like herbal and floral stuff. So usually like the stuff that I'm making, I call it open feast. And usually the stuff that I make for open feast will be like rose cardamom cakes or like chocolate lavender cakes or things like that.
So when's the Some Faith like baking mix line coming out? Or are you gonna, Brian?
Don't
you could,
give us
I know
any
you're,
ideas.
I know you're good at Photoshop. You could do like a remixed
Ooh.
version of the EP where it's all like pastry themed or something.
Well, it was funny because the whole cake thing happened whenever. Yeah, I mean, you've been in a position where you've made demo songs and like you don't know what to name them, so you just name them whatever.
Right.
So when I first sent over Liminal, I didn't know what to call it, so I just called it chocolate cake. and then
we just kept
then
it
Pain
up.
Has a Purpose was vanilla cake.
Yep.
And then
Okay.
there was strawberry cake, and then lavender cake, and lemon cake, and pumpkin cake, and
Yeah.
trip pants cake.
Maybe cake. Maybe cake is
Maybe
one
cake.
of them.
Yeah, it's gone off the rails at this point.
Okay.
They're no longer things that are food. But unicorn cake.
Yeah, unicorn cake is a top secret.
Yeah, that's a song that we're working on now. We're still writing stuff, which is cool. In the mix of everything else that's going on, I think that it's been really important for us just to always be ahead 2 or 3 months, just so we can have a consistent stream of cool stuff out for the people, and so we could keep ourselves busy, so we always have something to do. And God forbid another lockdown or something happens, we'll at least have some stuff where we can still be like prolific.
Yeah.
Right. That leads me to ask Indigo, you said you were involved with Mr. Roboto project, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So from your personal viewpoint, I mean, what is the music scene looking like right now? I mean, we're getting terrible news every day just about, the Rex Theater just announced they're closing.
Yeah.
I mean, I donated like way more money than I should have to the Mr. Smalls Fund. I mean, what's it like out there right now for you being involved with that?
Yeah. It's definitely really rough, especially because I've built so many relationships with other people involved in other venues, just out of that sort of mutual respect and interests. And it's not easy and it's not pretty. Watching a lot of places that I love and have friends that are involved with closing. And I think the main thing is that there's just such uncertainty right now of what's going to happen. And
It's very liminal.
It is. We are in this liminal period where it's just completely uncertain. We just like really don't know what to expect. Like we did a t-shirt drive with Roboto in an effort to raise money to keep paying our rent, because like we pay our rent with shows and we can't do that right now. And I will say that we've been very lucky that there are enough people in the community that have fond memories of Roboto and want to keep it alive. but it is really uncertain. And I think the thing that's been like killing me and a lot of people that I love so much is that like for a lot of people, shows are this like way of self care. You know, going to shows, seeing your loved ones, like
Yep.
just hugging your friends, seeing your friends that don't live in Pittsburgh, but they're touring and you look forward to it every year, getting to see them.
I'm
Um,
trying not to cry right now. I'm serious. Like that's exactly how I
yeah.
feel.
Yeah, it's
Ugh.
so hard. It's like the thing that you like running sound it shows at Roboto and having friends come up and give me a hug and be like, "Oh my god, I haven't seen you in like so long," and like all that kind of stuff.
Or
It's
bringing
just
you pizza.
or bringing me pizza from SPAC because they know I haven't eaten because I came straight from work. Like, you know, like all these things. It's just it's been so hard and sad and disappointing. And I know I have a lot of friends that are involved in the music scene that are feeling so hopeless and disillusioned right now and giving up on dreams and you know all these things that they had worked so hard towards. I have so many friends that had built a career out of music that now can't pay their bills, you know, stuff like that. And it's and so many friends that work at venues and same thing. And I think that's one of the things that has been hurting the most about all of this is just that seeing having like 90% of my friends be artists and musicians and just seeing all of these dreams falling apart has just been so heartbreaking.
Mhm.
And so I think it's just important that we try to adapt as much as we can, and try to be there for each other as much as we can. Because I mean, in the end, mutual aid is the thing that's going to save us. Is like the government doesn't care what happens to all the little bands, all the little
Nah.
people. So we just have to be there for each other. Like you were saying, donating money to the Smalls Fund, things like that. Like that's what's going to keep this going. Is that as long as we support each other, and you know, like what Brian was saying, like just being kind to each other because we're all fighting our own battles right now. And I think I've seen so many people get so cruel in the last couple months because, yeah, there's so much pain going on right now. But what does that serve to just go straight for hatred? You know,
Mhm.
um, we just have to try to be as kind as we can to one another and help each other stay afloat.
Totally. I think
Yep.
that it's been, you know, like all of the uncertainty and all of that chaos that's been around us, I think has like really helped me try to like put even more into this than I normally would, I think. And maybe the same for Indigo too, where it's like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like I don't want it's like I feel bad for my friends that are having a hard time right now, but I feel like I'm in a position where like I feel like okay enough that like I'm going to like keep kicking ass and I want people around to know that like you could still kick ass all things considered.
Yeah.
So, you know, like there's still plenty of things that we can do. There's still plenty of resources and we could still be connected, even though it may not be in the same way. I mean, we're doing this right now. I'm still doing my podcast. We still
Yeah.
have, you know, all of our things that we're doing. We're still doing the band.
Yeah.
I have my other bands. You're doing your bake sale stuff. You have
Yeah.
work and just like we're the community is like we're still a pretty big part of it. And in a
Mhm.
way, I'm probably more busy now than I was before. And I feel like I'm putting my time into things that are actually helping push things forward instead of like practicing for the half hour set that we're going to play this weekend when like I'm going to I'll be on stage for 30 minutes but I'm going to be in a bar drinking and spending all my money and just getting fucked up with my friends, which is cool. But now
Right.
like on weekend, like on Fridays and Saturday nights, I'm like making dinner here and then working on stuff all night,
Yeah.
Mhm.
which is awesome. Like I'd much rather be in that position than being like at the club all the time, which goes back to me saying like whenever things do get to a point where we could start doing shows again, like I don't want to be that person that's like every show we gotta, or every weekend we got a show here and a show here. Like
Yeah.
fuck that. Like there's so much more productivity that I think bands can do, just taking a step back, focusing on their stuff and only coming out when they really have something to show. Like you can get your
Yeah.
friends out once every few months and be like, yo, like we got new songs, we have a new setup, like check it out, instead of being like, you know, that band that's playing the same set every single show for 3.5 years because you never
Yeah.
take the time to work on anything new because you're just playing it, you know,
Yeah.
Gooskies or the Smiling
And
Moose
you
or
get like
wherever
$10
every other
Right.
weekend.
Right. Oh, that's you really hit that nail on the head, because I was trying to contend with that feeling myself where, like you said, Indigo, you know, I'm almost crying over here because it's like that's my social network. You know, the metal scene in particular, that's my family. These are the people I want to spend my time with. But then right before Corona hit, I was starting to get this sense of burnout of like, okay,
Yeah.
do I really want to go see this band I've never heard and spend my money and stand in the back corner of Smiling Moose drinking a beer I don't like just because I feel like starved for the friendship and the validation? Or do I want to be a little choosier about it? And I started to think
Yeah.
about the latter, but it's really interesting to hear people who are so wrapped up in the scene say the same thing, because it almost
Yeah.
seems antithetical. Like, well, wouldn't this be the time to go support every little band, no matter how big or small? And it's like, that's not, I think that's missing the point. It's like, we have the opportunity now. You can be thriving, but you can still be empathetic. And I think it's an opportunity to put your money where your mouth is and, you know, make sure you're applying like your social networking and your money and your activism or whatever you want to where it's going to matter most.
And I think too, if you're taking the time like to go out and be a part of the scene, for me and with shows that I wasn't playing, I would like guilt trip myself into going to shows. Like I felt like I had to
Yeah.
be there.
Same.
But then I'm at this thing and I'm kind of grumpy. I'm not pleasant to be around. That's not good for my character or any potential networking or seeing people. Like, oh yeah, I ran into Brian at that show and he was in a fucking grumpy mood because like I don't even want to be there. Like that's not doing anybody any favors. It's almost better just
Yeah.
That's
stay
a
at home
Scorpio
and
cusp.
do the things that you want to do. Like how can you like expect to contribute positively to the community when you can't even contribute positively to yourself?
Yeah.
Wow, that's some good life advice. Brian, as an aside, I was going to ask you, when do you sleep? Because now that you're doing Some Faith too, on top of your already fantastic and busy podcast and your two other bands, I really want to know when you sleep.
I mean, I get 8 hours of sleep every night.
Wait, you get 8 hours? I get
That's my
4.
reaction.
Yeah, I get my 8. I really like, so I throughout the day I have my to-do list and I'm very, very strict where I'm like, I'm gonna work on this Some Faith mix from 12 to 1. And at 1 o'clock I will stop.
I've seen it. He
Mm.
has it like blocked off in his calendar, like bars of like, 30-minute, 15-minute,
bullet
blah,
journal?
blah, blah.
Yeah.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
every week is the same. Like it's like really like it's like a diet, but like a creative diet. It's like a very strict creative regiment. And like, Tuesdays is a day that I focus a lot on Some Faith. Wednesdays, Grey Walker. Thursday would be Normal Creatures. I do the podcast on Sundays. Friday, Saturdays, I always left open for shows and things. Nowadays, it's kind of like whatever. And Monday is my adult day. That's the check the bank accounts, check credit card accounts, take care of bills, do laundry, grocery store, that kind of shit. Laundry, that's my life. And it's always the same.
I might have to adopt that. I honestly might, because I was so impressed. Like, okay, so this is me breaking the fourth wall here, but to any of my listeners who are listening and you're like, why does that guy's voice sound familiar? Sykes, I'm talking about here. He has a fantastic podcast called Start the Beat. And okay, so Brian, you were kind enough to interview me on your show, and I just remember walking out of there like, one, that's a lot of stuff to cover. Two, he does this with like multiple people every month of different genres and different walks of life, and you always put out a consistently great product and it's always on time. And I'm just like, okay, don't compare yourself to him, but like you just make it look so easy. So now I know how you do it.
Yeah, I mean, just set goals, Keep your expectations low. There's plenty of things that like I like. So I was doing a podcast with somebody recently, and they were talking about my headphone hideaway videos.
Yeah, which
And I was
I
like, yeah,
love.
I love when you do those. And like, you do you enjoy those videos?
Oh yeah, because you
Have you
you
noticed?
always call people out in the comments whenever we say stuff, which is fun.
Have you noticed that I haven't done one of those in 2 months?
Um, I
You
mean,
haven't.
no, not
Nobody
really.
has. And that's fine. People still assume that I'm doing them every week because everybody's so caught up in their own shit. So I can easily skip a podcast one week, or I can easily skip that, or nobody's paying attention to me that well. Like, you got to really check your
Yeah.
ego.
Yeah,
So it's fine.
That's
So
why I stopped. I'm like, nobody is calling you going, where is Tapestry
Yeah.
Music Podcast? Oh my God. I'm
Yeah,
like, nobody
it's
gives a
fine.
shit. It's fine.
It's fine to take time for yourself and like not let things be, because like socially people just assume that I'm always working. And in some ways I am, but in a lot of ways like I'm not. Like I still make time to watch the Great British Baking Show and Grey's Anatomy with Stacy, and I still make time to, do whatever, like sit around and just listen to records or derp on YouTube and just like do boring normie stuff as well. It's not like work all the time. It's just consistent enough.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
don't complain. I never complain.
No.
I'm never all like, why aren't people paying attention to me? I put out videos and nobody's watching them. It's just like, no, just put shit out there and people will watch it.
Right.
Or like doing the thing where like sometimes people will be like, I'm really sorry, but like I'm not going to be able to upload the podcast this week because blah, blah. Like, nobody cares. Just don't upload it. You
Right.
don't got to put yourself on blast.
Yeah.
Nobody will notice.
That's very true.
Nobody will notice.
Yeah, people only notice if you're doing that. If
Mhm.
you're like, oh, sorry. Then they're like, oh, what?
Yeah.
I guess before I kind of start to wind down, I tend to end with some more general questions. Are there any other
Neat.
things you guys want to touch on about some faith before I hit you with my last couple?
I think that it's really important if people are listening to this prior to Devil's Night, October 30th. We're going to be doing that live stream, which is really, really cool. I mean, I'm not really spoiling anything, but it is basically a pre-recorded concert, fully edited, multicam. Like it's very, very legit. We basically made a music video for every single song on the EP. Is essentially what
That
we
is
did.
awesome.
And it looks really good.
And it turned out good. Our buddies Nick Prezioso, who you probably know,
Yep.
and JT Penderville of Bethlehem helped film it, which was really cool. We shot it at our buddy Sid's place, this church over in Stanton Heights.
Yeah, I know Sid.
Yeah, you know Sid.
Yep.
He's so nice.
Yes, he is.
So yeah, we shot it at his place. It was a lot of fun. And so we're going to be airing that live, but prior to it, we're going to be doing like a DJ set, actually live, not pre-recorded, probably sitting right here, but we're going to be playing a DJ set of all Pittsburgh artists that we would have liked to have played the show if this was a real
We would
EP
have
release
loved
show.
to have had them.
Yeah, we would have loved to have had them. So we're going to be, sharing some of our favorite local
I'm going to wear my Halloween costume.
that's like electronic artists, mostly it'll be kind of a wide variety, but a lot of synth driven local stuff. So that's going to be cool just to share some of that with the world. So you'll get a good little crash course on local electronic music in our DJ set. And then probably afterwards, after the set, we'll probably hang out on live stream until nobody's in the chat anymore. We'll just bullshit, do whatever, who knows?
Yeah.
Nice.
Drinking games.
We could do a fun drinking game.
Yes, drinking games. That's what we're going to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
You heard it here.
So that's, I mean, and afterwards, I mean, obviously it will be available for people to watch after the stream, but it would be cool just to get people in there when it's happening, just to help, again, me being my marketing self. You just want to boost the signal, because that whole idea is you want strangers to find out about it and come in, and we're not doing this just
we
for
want
our
strangers
friends
to look at us.
Yes, we want strangers to look at us. So other than that, that's going to be on our Facebook, which you can find us really easily on all social media, which is just Some Faith 666 everywhere.
Yeah.
And then so
Okay.
that's all I want to say about that. You wrap up with any questions that you want to do.
Wow.
We're in no rush, by the way.
Okay.
We're
in
just
no
vibing.
Well,
We're
that's true.
vibing.
You're vibing. Yeah,
Yeah.
didn't you say that Tuesdays are normally like kind of your practice?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
sort of?
we're usually here until like 11 midnight.
God.
Literally, like,
anyways.
Usually, like, we'll be sitting here and like we'll make dinner, we'll eat, and we'll sit literally at this table, and I'll have the monitor pulled up, and we got our little list of things to do. If we're not like recording or anything, like last
Yeah.
week we spent pretty much the entire time plotting out the next music video.
Yep. Yeah.
So yeah, just creative stuff.
That just reminded me, I did forget to ask one more thing about Some Faith. How did you come up with the story for the Liminal music video, which involves an exorcism and demons, and it's very cool.
Thank you. I'm a very visual thinker, and so whenever I would be writing the songs, so pretty much I have an idea visually for every song that we've written already, because it was like while I was writing them. So like as I was writing it, I also like I was like writing it in like the notes on my phone, and then I had like a whole separate note of like, okay, and then this will happen, this will happen, and stuff. So like I've had the idea for the music video pretty much from when we wrote the song.
In the music video, the sheets of paper that I'm holding that are like that I'm doing the exorcism from, a lot of them are just scans of her notebook that with the lyrics and all of the notes for the music video.
Yeah, it's so manic. To see it is like to have an aneurysm.
Yeah, so we did that. You want to tell the B movie thing?
So one of the other things that's in the folder of exorcism stuff is so whenever Brian and I would be like mic checking and stuff during practices, like when we were recording songs, I got really tired of being like check.
Yeah, we
check.
all do.
So I just started pulling up the B movie script on my phone because I was like, I just need something to just read off for a while. So I would just be like, okay, Brian, are you ready to start checking the mic? Okay, according to all known laws of aviation, he's like, mixing the mic up and down. And so we put it in the folder.
Yeah, the B movie script is also in the folder.
So some of the scenes where he's like yelling exorcism stuff, he's just yelling like, according to all those laws of aviation, there's no way a bee should be able to fly.
Every scene of me yelling in the Liminal video, I'm actually yelling the B movie script.
Okay, this is like another small world weird ass thing. I just got stuck the other night staying up way too late looking at like a stupid, 40 stupid text messages people shouldn't have sent or whatever. And someone out there changed the name of their family Facebook group chat to like the whole like first 5 minutes of the B movie scene. Like they just typed it out, and like the name of the group is like 3 scrolls of your phone long. So I just saw that the other day. That is so bizarre.
God bless that person.
Oh my God. I also wish that's what I want when coronavirus is over and we have a vaccine. I better come to a show and I better hear you mic checking to the B movie script.
Oh, I friggin' will.
Oh,
it's
definitely.
Like, because the whole thing is you get so tired of being like, check for like however long.
Yeah.
And like sometimes you just want to be able to just go read off something.
It's a lot better, honestly.
Probably.
It's more fun.
You get different
it's fun
syllables
for the whole family.
Yeah, you're getting
exactly.
It's great. But I think that we had interrupted Indigo talking about the stories and the plots and everything. Basically, I will throw this out there. The story will continue.
Okay. Okay.
So
this is not a one video arc.
This is multiple.
Yes, we're plotting and scheming.
I would say it's a big love of like Buffy, and you're gonna see some in the future ones. You're gonna see some Jennifer's Body, stuff like that. I mean that's one of the things that Brian and I have definitely bonded over is like a mutual love of like horror and like supernatural
yeah,
paranormal
like
stuff.
campy horror,
Yeah,
supernatural stuff.
especially campy stuff.
Like we really, really love all of that stuff. And I have a background outside of music in filmmaking somewhat. I made a horror movie in high school.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that. I
The
want to
Night No One
see
Will
it.
Survive.
Ooh.
I mean, it's not very good, but I
still
did
want to
it.
see it.
But I really love filming. I love directing. I edit all of our videos. And so me, like us to be able to like storyboard stuff together, and like I'm editing stuff and she's coming up with all of the ideas for the stories and framing and everything. It's just fun because like we're getting to flex an entirely different part of our creative brains, and it's
Yeah.
still us.
Yeah.
So it's like not Some Faith isn't even just a music project for us. It's also like a short film project in
Yeah.
some ways too, which has been
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to like dig more into that for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing too. Is like, yeah, I'm a very, like I was saying, I'm a very visual thinker, and I had ideas for all these videos, and I remember being like, but this will just be just a dream. And like I will just like have this idea of this music video, but like surely we will never actually make it. And then Brian was like, yeah, let's like do all of them. And I was like, ah! So that's been fun. I think, I mean, that's the thing, is like going back to like us having this like good connection, is like I think that we are both just very much like, let's do it all. Like what is stopping us from like we have so many interests and passions in art and music and film, and like why wouldn't we just integrate all of it into this project instead of just keeping it just like a strictly like music project? Like we have all these skills and talents, and why wouldn't we just
Right.
use everything we have?
Yeah, it's been really cool too because I I think I could genuinely say that Indigo's probably like the most creative person I've ever been in a band with.
Wow.
Like honestly, like and this is nothing against anybody else that I've been in bands with, but I always, for whatever reason, end up assuming the role of like the creative director of every band that I'm in, because most of the time, the guys in the band or the gals or whoever, the people that have been in bands with, they're really good at their instruments, they're good at songwriting, but when it comes to like the extracurricular, let's think of videos, let's think of this and that, a lot of that ends up getting put to the side. So I pick up the weight, and it's really hard to carry all of that weight. And it's been really awesome with Indigo to have a project where somebody's bringing ideas to the table, and like I just kind of have to help like make it happen.
Spoken like a true Libra.
Okay.
I mean, somebody's got to be the creative one here.
I mean, someone can't
it's
do, someone else has got to do all the work, and it can't be me.
It's nice. I think it's a really nice balance because like I think that all of the areas where I think maybe we're not as capable as the other person, like it's easy for someone to step in. Like Indigo could be like, I have this idea for this liminal video, and I'm like, okay, let's storyboard it to a timeline and I'll do all this. And I'm like, well, we want to do all these things, but it's not going to work. So we're going to have to maybe compromise some shots, because realistically you want to make an 8-minute video for a 4-minute song. So like, let's figure out like, how can we condense the story, but still make it make sense. So like where we balance from each other. Like I would get too caught up in even trying to think of like, what is a good story? Like storytelling isn't my strength. Storytelling is a strength of Indigo's. A strength of me is like editing and structure. And maybe that's not so much one of Indigo's strengths, because for whatever reason.
Right.
My Gemini brain is just too.
Yeah, but I mean, it sounds like you guys really do truly have a great creative relationship. I mean, you kind of that's even how like romantic relationships ought to go too, whether it's platonic or not. Like you're kind of supposed to complement the other person's strengths and weaknesses, and just kind of fill in where the other person's maybe unable to. So
I think for me, if you're going to dedicate a portion of your life to something like a project like this, you need to have like full confidence and trust in your partner in the project. And I have that confidence and that trust in Indigo. So whenever Indigo's bringing something to the table, I'm not coming at it from like, well, how can I make this better? It's from the angle of like, well, I trust you as a creative, so let's see what you got. And if there's something where I think is genuine, like, oh, like, well, this is an idea or this isn't going to work, it's like I usually only like come back with like practical things. It's never like
Yeah.
I think that's a bad idea.
Right. It's just like you were saying earlier, it's mostly just like logistic things because I'm like such a dreamer. I'm just like, and then we can do this and this and this and this and this. And you're like, okay, we have 4 minutes. We have 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right. But yeah, I think like, I mean, a perfect example would be like when we have our practices every week, Brian makes us dinner and I always bring dessert because those are our strengths, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like, so he's like a good cook and I'm a good baker. And so it's like, we're like, boom, boom.
Right.
We got it.
Well, that kind of already pre-answers my question, which I'd like to ask towards the end, which is usually, kind of what defines success to you and maybe what's the best advice you could give. But you guys just dumped a hell of a lot of really good advice about creative working relationships right there.
Nice.
Sure. Yeah. I think that, yeah, I would say 10,000%. If you're in a band or any sort of a creative project with somebody who you don't creatively trust,
Yeah.
you're not in the right band. You're not working with the right people. And also, like, I think being willing to know that you're not always right, being willing to be empathetic with people. Sometimes somebody might be having a bad day. They might have, it has nothing to do with you. Don't make things about you. Be, just be empathetic of the people around you, be open, and just be down for whatever, because
Yeah.
you don't know everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And just be willing. There's always going to be compromise. Things are going to take way longer than they should. You just got to be patient. You got to be persistent, stay productive, and just like, don't forget too that like it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
I know that like that kind of gets thrown out the window, like understandably for some people, because it's not always easy to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, just don't forget that it is okay to have fun, and it's an escape from the bullshit of everything else going on in our lives.
Yeah, music and art at the end of the day, it should always feel cathartic. And if it doesn't, then why are you doing it?
Mm-hmm.
It should feel like a release. It should feel like a healing process. Like, I mean, that's the thing. It's like for me, singing is something that's been so healing, and songwriting has been so cathartic for me to like just get it out, to like work through whatever emotions I'm feeling and get it out there. And if you're not getting that kind of like joy and healing sensation from it, then maybe you need to start reanalyzing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Faux show.
Yeah, really, really well said. Honestly, you guys could write some kind of music industry self-help book or something. But no, I think it's just,
Whoa.
I think there's just a genuine feeling here that you're both confident in your ideas, and why would you not partner up with another person who's confident in their ideas? So, that being said, I'm gonna smack you with my last question here. Then this is
slap me across the face.
Always the last
Choke
one. So for both of you, if you could please supply me with the 3 albums that you couldn't live without. If you only had to listen to 3 albums for the rest of your life, what would they be?
Wow, what a train wreck of a question that one is.
That's always my last question. And I'm never changing it.
To keep things easy for me, I'm going to stick within our genre.
Okay.
So we'll go Depeche Mode, Violator, which there's a good chance that could be on the list anyways. Depeche Mode, Violator. Purity Ring, Shrines. These are all bands that I've mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm kind of copying out on this. Or Bjork's Vespertine. Those are 3 albums that I would put out there.
That's a good album.
And I would say that, those albums are probably all in one way or another contribute to the stuff that we're doing. And it's been a lot of fun getting able to flex those creative muscles with this project, because as I said before, didn't really get to do that so much with Greywalker. Or, I mean, I have more creative control with Normal Creatures and the stuff that we're doing, the album that we're going to be putting out soon.
Yeah.
I'm like in the middle of like mastering it, and yeah, so it's been a process, but it's fun. It's fun. That I'm excited about that, but we're not here to talk about that. Those are my albums. Indigo.
I'm like, I hate these are my least favorite types of questions because like anytime anyone is like, what's your top favorite 5 these things? I'm like,
oh, I know. Oh, I know.
Yeah,
it's cruel. I swear every episode I've considered stopping asking it, but it's maybe I just have a power thing and I need to like press you under my finger and just watch you squirm or something.
Sure.
well, you can't even watch us squirm because the camera died. Joke's on you. You can only hear me squirm.
I can just hear the hatred in your voice. That's all.
No, it's not hatred. It's just pain. I would say, I had to think about this. I would say it's funny because none of these are anything like the music that we're making. But I have a very broad interest in music, I suppose. I would say, so 2 self-titled albums, the Airborne Toxic Events, self-titled, Horse Jumper of Love's self-titled, and probably also Transatlanticism by Death Cab for Cutie.
I've not heard the first 2, but I always get good ideas.
Oh,
from
2
these.
of my favorite bands. Yeah, the Airborne Toxic Event was my favorite band all through high school. Just really, really incredible. But in the last couple of years, they changed the lineup of who's in the band in a big way. And I'm not like a huge fan of their newer stuff, but yeah, everything up through like 2013 was flawless. And Horse Jumper of Love is one of my newest favorite bands, and also just the sweetest pups on earth. Really good people, and yeah, their self-titled is incredible. The last album they just put out was so good. Everything they've put out so far is great, and just, I mean, never hurts that they're fantastic people.
If we hadn't left the island yet, I would probably swap out Purity Ring Shrines for FKA Twigs LP1.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot you're a big fan of hers.
That's a flawless album.
Yeah, it is.
So whenever I do make the next Headphone Hideaway that I've been planning on making for like 2 months, I just haven't had time, quite literally, because honestly, the main reason I haven't done any of those is because between Normal Creatures and us, I've shot and edited basically 9 music videos in the past 2 months.
Yeah, okay.
So that's why I haven't been doing any of I've been busy, plenty busy.
Everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's gonna be the next one. I've been like thinking about it for like 2 months, just like, man, I can't wait to talk about that motherfucker. That's a good record.
I remember I popped into the one Headphone Hideaway, and I think you were briefly talking about that, and I'm like, oh, I've listened to 2 or 3 of her songs, but I really don't know much about her other than she's very forward thinking, and there's just a lot going on in her stuff.
Yeah, that LP1 is insane, and I hadn't listened to that in a few years, and I put it on recently, and I was like, wow. Like, this was really cool at the time, but now I'm like, wow, this is nuts.
Well,
it's
still holds up.
I don't want to. I'm basically just gonna record the episode now, and I'm just gonna clip it out.
Yeah, it'll be the next 2 hours of my episode.
Yeah.
Well, now that you guys are done hating me, hopefully, for my last question, seriously, thank you for taking time out of your Tuesday night practice schedule and dinner cooking to chat with me about Some Faith. And like I said, I will do my best to get this episode out before the live stream, and I'm gonna hopefully tune in because I actually have that day off of work. So
please do. It'll be fun.
Indigo, is there anywhere I can follow where your bake sales are gonna be? Honest question.
Oh yeah,
like a Facebook page or something.
So yeah, I mostly just post about them on my social media. So yeah, if you just follow like my personal Instagram, or I also have like a witchy Instagram that I post a lot of my baking stuff on. And that is Mother of Mugwort. There's like underscores. It's like Mother underscore
I'll find
underscore Mugwort. but yeah, I do them every month. This past one, I sent the money to a friend of mine who needed the funds, a local queer Black artist. And the month before that, I sent them to mutual aid, Pittsburgh. I usually end up being able to raise about like $600 to $700, which is really cool.
That is fantastic.
So yeah, I just honestly, the thing is, it's like I was saying with adapting, it's like I used to do fundraising shows, and like that's how I knew to raise money for things that I wanted to be able to help, and can't really do that right now. It's like now of all times when I really want to be able to raise money
Yep.
for different like organizations and stuff. Like I can't do the one thing that I know how to raise money, and so I just had to learn to adapt. And I was like, what's another skill of mine that I can use to keep sending funds to places and people that need them? So now I bake hundreds of baked goods and I make many dollars.
Well, there is nothing wrong with that. Seriously, good for you for doing that. That's awesome. I was gonna cut that because I was just asking personally, but I'm like, don't cut that, you idiot. Leave it in. Leave it in. Someone's gonna listen to this and then show up and buy cupcakes from you. So I think it's great.
Heck yeah.
But
Thanks.
yeah, either way, thank you, Indigo and Brian, for sharing your time with me. I do really appreciate it. And
thank you.
Yeah, hopefully get to see a show sometime in the next 5 years. That would be great.
Yeah, that'd be nice. And in the next 5 years.
Yeah, 'cause we did spend. You'll see it. You'll see it on the 30th. We spent quite a heck of time putting a show together.
Oh, we did.
Well, I'm excited.
We have some pretty cool visuals and lights.
Yeah.
Fog.
Yes.
Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed my interview with Some Faith. Now, this episode should be released on Tuesday, October 27th, which means that you have but a few days to go follow Some Faith on all their social media and tune in for the live stream on October 30th. If you forgot already, you can find them on social media by looking up Some Faith 666, or just go to Facebook and type in Some Faith. And then for those of you who didn't stay to the end of the interview but want to cut to the end, you can go follow Indigo on Instagram by looking up mother_of_mugwort. And if you're in the Pittsburgh area, you can come out to one of her bake sales. As always, thanks for listening.
In patience.